Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm just here. I haven't done a lot in the past couple of days, which has been nice.
Great.
I think I'm gonna take off on Monday because I really enjoyed not being at the office yesterday.
Mm.
So we'll see when it gets here. I have a couple of sick days left. But I did want to talk about my doing nothing yesterday, which is thrilling. Trust me, it's fine. So I house sat at Noelle's for Thanksgiving, so I wasn't going home. And she has two dogs who are lovely. Not always at 3 a.m, but at normal times they are.
Right.
But her one dog, I don't know if her house is haunted or if her dog is haunted.
Mm.
But at 3 a.m, both nights I stayed there, he would just start barking. And then he would bark. And then Sadie would bark. And then the third dog, Barney, would bark. And I had to get up like I was taming a lion and stand between all of them and be like, stop this. So I haven't slept in a couple of days, needless to say. I did sleep like during the day yesterday.
Yeah.
But I think they're just all possessed. Like Sadie got up to get water at 4:30 in the morning. She doesn't need water at 4:30 in the morning.
She doesn't.
And
She barely drinks her water at like 4:30 in the afternoon.
She doesn't drink water. Yeah, she never drinks water. And she went to like go get it, but the smaller bowl was out and Barney was laying in front of the bowl. So she woke me up at 4:30 in the morning barking at him because she couldn't figure out how to walk around him. And I was like, you just walk. So I think their house might be haunted, all that to say.
Yeah, it does sound like it.
And it also has like, it didn't help that like, so Noelle's room is like in a basement. And so like all the pipes are down there. And so there was a lot of noises that I was convinced I was haunted and gonna die. Yeah. And I was like, that'd make a great story for the podcast, but it'd be
not
really
like for life.
For my life. Yeah. So I finally got some rest. Not at 3 or 4 in the morning, but like at times that you don't sleep. Yeah. I got some rest. And I just spent all this time watching the Holiday Baking Championship. So I'm super ready for Christmas.
Love
like
it.
Today, I don't know if you've ever watched it, but I've now watched 8 seasons. So
I've not, but I'm yeah, I love it.
So that's how I am. I am semi-rested in ways and at times that don't make sense and ready for the holidays. So how are you?
Also, I'm very strongly feeling the idea that like these last couple of days off and like just spending time with my family and Dan's family, it means I now realize that I never want to go back to work ever again. I would like to just live in holiday land, and watch Christmas movies and drink wine and have no responsibilities. But that is not reasonable, unfortunately. I did have 3 Thanksgivings.
Nice.
Which I have figured out is probably going to be the standard until Dan said until we have our own children and I can just force people to come to us. And I was like, thank you. That's how I feel about it also. Not that it's not a good thing to have 3 full Thanksgiving dinners. That is lovely, but it's exhausting eating that much turkey. At my parents, we had turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and corn and green beans and sweet potatoes and rolls and roasted squash and cranberry sauce and duck. Not duck. We did not have a duck. We had a rabbit. That's what we had. That's the animal that we ate.
That's better. I don't like duck. And I haven't had squash at Thanksgiving, but I love a squash, so I don't know why we have it.
So that was that. And then at Dan's mom's house, we had turkey and cranberry sauce and mac and cheese and cauliflower and stuffing. And oh my God, I love cauliflower. And then we had like, it's my favorite. We had like roasted carrots and parsnips, and we had mashed potatoes and There was also creamed onions because that's like Meg's favorite thing. Yeah, that's how I feel about it as well. And like a corn casserole. There's also a green bean casserole, but I don't eat green bean casseroles.
Oh,
I
I love
think
green bean casserole.
I don't know. I would just rather have my beans. I don't want to have all that
Mm,
extra stuff in them.
fair. I want both.
There. And then at his dad's house, we had a Cajun roasted turkey. Um,
Mm,
and it was really good. And then we obviously had mashed potatoes and stuffing. We had uh, more creamed onions and more green bean casserole. But we had a mashed rutabaga, which I had never tried before, but it was delicious.
yeah. What is it? Is it like sweet?
So no, well, so rutabaga is like a turnip almost, like in shape
Right.
and everything, but it tasted more like just like a really um less milky mashed potato.
Okay.
It
I can get
was,
behind that.
yeah, it was super good. And then we had so when I had sweet potatoes at my house, we just had whole sweet potatoes. But at
Those are
Dan's
mashed.
dad and Dad's dad, we had mashed sweet potatoes with the marshmallow, like
Mm,
the sweet
sweet
potato
potato
casserole.
casserole. Mm,
Yeah. And
mm,
then my parents, I had apple pie. And then at Dan's mom, so I had apple Bradley. She has this homemade apple bread that's delicious. And then Dan's
bread.
dad, yeah.
I thought
And
you said apple Bradley, and I was like, what is that?
no,
I've been
apple
watching a
bread.
lot of holiday baking, and I've not heard of
Yeah.
an apple Bradley.
No. And then at Dan's dad's, I had pecan pie with homemade whipped cream. And I did have Thanksgiving leftovers today as well. But I would like to be buried in a sweet potato casserole. Um,
Done.
that's all. And so that's really all I've been able to think about all day is how much I wish I was eating sweet potatoes.
Mm. I love Thanksgiving dinner. The one I had was terrible, so I'm ready for Christmas. I'm gonna have like 7, even if I make
Yeah,
them all myself,
right.
which I probably will.
Well, and then the funny part was my sister Gabby called me today because she also had our Thanksgiving dinner and then had dinner at her fiance's family. And so then today we had the okay, who had the best stuffing of your 3 Thanksgiving dinners? What was the best
Mhm.
mashed potato? We had the rundown of who had the best of everything. Um, my mom had by far the best gravy. Oh, so good.
I'm gonna make
But
you dressing one day. My granddaddy's dressing, and it's the best, and it's gotten rave reviews everywhere I've taken it.
now,
So
is it dressing because you make it outside of the bird?
no, it's dressing because it's soupier, stuffing's drier, but also stuffing goes inside the bird a lot of the time too. But
Yeah.
stuffing's a little breadier.
See, but my stuffing is bready, but it's not dry.
Well, not like dry, but it's breadier, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm,
Like dressing is cornbread based, but it's not as bready.
interesting. I just always thought dressing and stuffing, the difference is where you cooked it, really.
That's what people say, but I think that's what people say who have never had dressing, which is common in the north. So
Fair. That's fair enough. That's
I
fair
think
enough.
that's what it is. Because I also always thought they were the same. And then I had stuffing and I was like, oh, I mean, it's a lot of the same flavors, obviously, but like
Yeah.
not quite. It's like a little bit
Mm,
different. So
okay.
I'll make it for you one day. You'll love it.
Fantastic.
That'll be your fifth Thanksgiving dinner.
Please live
Might
close
two.
enough that I can live close enough to me that I can go to holiday dinners at your house and hands down I'll be there. But
Excellent.
yeah.
Love it.
Um, while we're talking about holidays and how we wish every day was a holiday, can you just give us some warm, fuzzy feelings to share with everyone?
Sure. If you needed a reason to quit your life, I'm here for you. If there's even a slight chance at getting something that will make you happy, risk it. Life's too short and happiness is too rare. A.R. Lucas.
I love that. So, things that would make me quit my life.
It's a long list.
Yeah, but mostly it's Stargate.
Oh, yeah. That made it to the short list.
Yeah, it did. Like the fact that I can't go to this Comic-Con in May. I'm still mad about it.
Oh, yeah. It's in Pittsburgh again? Is that right?
No, the one in Pittsburgh is next weekend that I can't go to, but there's
Yeah.
because that's way too soon.
Mhm.
No, the one in May is the one that has like, did I tell you there's one in May outside of London that has like
Yes.
12 of their 14 guests are Stargate people?
Mhm.
Ugh, so mad. But,
Well,
you
I'll
know,
just quit my job and
perfect.
travel the world for you. Bring my pictures.
I love it. I also love Stargate SG-1, episode 4. Nope, season 4, episode 21. Don't
I do not.
necessarily. I was gonna say I don't necessarily know that love is the correct word, but there's some things about it that are not the worst. It's called Double Jeopardy, and it was rated 7.9 stars.
Which is higher than last week, if I'm correct.
Significantly, yeah.
Which is not correct.
I don't know about that. Last week's was pretty rough.
No, last week was incredible. I don't know what you're saying, but that's fine. Agree to disagree.
Last week's had incredible orchestration. That's how I will say. That's how I feel about it. But
wasn't last week's the one I loved?
Yeah. It's okay. No. You loved it.
10 out of 10.
It came out on February 16th, 2001. We have the same number one book. The number one movie was Recess, School's Out.
Yes, it was. Great film.
And the number one song was Miss Jackson by Outkast.
Oh, yes.
We are feeling
in the era of good music.
I was feeling a lot of things when I was taking these notes yesterday because I was like, what?
We're going from Shaggy, we're going to Outkast, we have Recess. Like, what a time.
9 years old. This is our childhood, like literally just our childhood. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, I was still only 8 at this point. I had not turned 9 yet.
Same.
On this day, there was a windstorm in Alabama that killed a bunch of people. A bunch of people died, just famous people unrelated to any of those things, but I didn't know who any of them were, so I ignored that. And also, the U.S. performed an airstrike on Iraq because of a violation of a no-fly zone, which was the beginning of some pretty awful things with the Middle East in 2001. So, the beginning is probably not fair to say. It was the issues with the U.S. and the Middle East have been for a hot minute there. But 2001 is a particularly rough year for that.
Right.
This episode, I once again put these people out of order because of who I wanted to talk about more. Because this episode was written by Robert C. Cooper and edited by Brad Rhymes, so nothing new there. The guest star was weird because a lot of the guest stars are people that have already been in the episode. So the person, like in the show, so the person who was the highest listed, who we hadn't talked about, played Jaden, who was the like female science officer Gould. Mm-hmm. So like not very high up, but she was played by Belinda Weymouth, who's known for Meet the Spartans, Stargate, and Time Cop. She took about a 12-year acting hiatus and was like not in anything from 2010 until 2022. But that's because she was doing a lot of other things, because she is the host of a show called It's the Planet Stupid, and she's like an ocean and climate advocate, and also a professional surfer.
Why not?
Right.
Why not?
And last but not least, this episode was directed by Michael Shanks.
Oh.
Yes.
Daniel Jackson sucked. I'm sorry, but good for you.
Well, I would wait till the normal time when I talk about trivia, but I won't. This is the only episode of the show ever directed by Michael Shanks.
I will say the direction wasn't terrible. The same complaint I have every season: timing of the episode and placement of callbacks. Like, get
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah, I was talking to Doug about how frustrating it is when you have to wait 3 seasons for a callback that then gets
You don't
immediately
remember.
resolved. Well, you barely remember, but then also it gets immediately resolved.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, "Yeah, it's
It's like they were like, oh my God, I forgot we did this. We should probably close this up really fast. Like,
yeah,
that's
like
how it feels every time.
it was terrible." And also, my favorite thing is that Michael Shanks directed this episode. But unlike some people who direct episodes of TV shows that they star in, he was then like not in the episode. Like he was in 2 scenes and
Yeah.
then he was not anymore. Um, which is interesting because I know, like, I usually talk about Vampire Diaries and Grey's Anatomy in terms of like actors directing, but those actors do not then just like disappear from the episodes
Yeah.
that they're directing.
I've seen it in some shows. I don't remember which one. I feel like that happened in one of the Bates episodes when we had one of them direct and they like weren't as frequently in that
Maybe.
episode, but I don't
Maybe.
remember.
But I also feel like Bates that made more logical sense to have like different storylines not as prominent
Oh,
in different
yeah.
episodes. In this, it's like they just like it's very obvious that they conveniently got Daniel out of the picture as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you never questioned like why they weren't in the episode when they weren't in it in the other ones. It was just
Right.
like, oh, they directed it because they weren't really active in acting in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we start this episode with the team coming through the gate almost immediately Jack gets shot.
Yeah. All of the confusion from everyone in this first scene. Before I knew what was happening in this episode, I put, this is how I feel every time we have a callback 2 seasons later. And then I learned that it's a callback like 2 seasons later. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So you knew that there was something confusing happening, but did you have any idea that it wasn't the team?
No, I thought it must have been like a weird time loop because the Stargate was back. And I was like, maybe they went to a time that was earlier. I didn't realize it. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was a time thing, not the other team.
Okay. Interesting. But so they think there's Jaffa around, but they don't recognize the people because they're not really wearing Jaffa outfits. But then this young man appears and says that he does know them and asks why they have dared returned to this planet after leaving. And Daniel looks very confused. And then we get the credits.
Which is why I even got confused even more because he's like, I know you. And I'm like, well, you both wouldn't know each other if we went back in time. Like,
right.
Before we ever came. So I sure did not know what was happening.
Yeah, it's and it's also like the least helpful opening scene ever.
And it's like it said it was PX389. Is that right? I think it said that in the info because I was trying to read to make sure I was on the right episode.
No, it's P2X279.
Oh, okay. Then it wasn't the right thing. Because I was like, I remember PX3, whatever I just said. I remember that being a very important place, and then I couldn't remember what happened there. So I was like, I don't even know where we're at anymore.
No, yeah, it's P2X379, but at one point Sam says P3X279, which is like a trivia thing that she says it wrong, but I didn't care because goofs like that are dumb and I don't write them. But so after the credits, we find out that Darian, who is the young man, is telling them that burying their gate didn't work. This is a planet. We find out that this is a planet that they saved from Harrower when they were defeating Harrower, and that they told them to bury their gate, which I vaguely remember happening, and I don't remember if it was a thing that they talked about or a thing that they showed, but I do remember it happening.
I remember them talking about it because I feel like I remember they were leaving and Jack was like, make sure to bury this after us. Now, like, how do we get in touch with you again? And they're like, not a thing.
Yeah.
Best of luck. And then it was over.
Yeah. But they did that, but it didn't work because Kronos came in a ship and forced them all to serve him as their new god. And the team is still very confused and has no idea what Darian is talking about. And then Jack goes missing.
And so, my first question, I don't know if they explained this in the episode because I really was confused most of this episode, to be fair.
Yeah.
But like, how did the Stargate come back? Or how did they get there without, like, with the Stargate being buried? Because they didn't unbury it.
No, Kronos and the Jaffa did unbury it so that they could
Because they were
travel.
already on the land?
No, so Kronos came in with a mothership, landed on the planet with a mothership, and then
Gotcha.
because he was there, the Jaffa unburied the Stargate so that they could use it.
Gotcha. That's what I was trying to place, and I could
Yes.
not seem to place that correctly.
No, you're good.
Thanks for help.
They go to Kronos' pyramid and they meet Sindar, who is the first prime or some shit, and they says that Kronos will be very pleased to see Teal'c. And then Darian goes home and he's telling his wife about all these weird things that are happening and what's going on. And she's acting like hella sus. And then he's like, why are you acting like this? And it just turns out Jack is in the house and standing behind him. Then we go back to the rest of the team and we have a very short scene where they're in prison in the pyramid and they're talking about how weird things are and how they don't really know what's going on, but they can't tell the Goa'uld the truth. And that's the first sign we get that something is very wrong.
I mean,
not the first sign, the first confirmation. I guess the first confirmation.
Confirmation, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jack asks Darian and Hera what happened, and before they were there, and Darian tells them everything from what the SG-1 team did all the way through Kronos getting there. And he also says that he can't listen to Jack about the Goa'uld not being gods because he blames himself for what happened to his people because he listened to them in the first place, and then all this terrible stuff happened, so he will not follow them again. And then Jack tells him to close his eyes, and he disappears again.
Yeah.
Like,
why are you trusting? You just said you weren't going to trust him, and then you close your eyes. Never close your eyes to people you don't trust. PSA. They might stab you. I mean, this time they didn't, but
or
they
run away.
Yeah.
Or take your food, and that's worse.
That's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah. Then Kronos arrives on the planet, and all of the warriors of Juna, which is the name of the planet, are called before him. And but Jack has attacked one of the warriors in order to steal their garb and go to the temple. And the prisoners are brought before Kronos, and he reminds them, which my favorite is the looks on their faces at the having absolutely no idea what he's saying in this speech. He reminds them, this is an actual positive callback because of the way it was done. I appreciated this one. He reminds them that their treaty with the Asgard does not protect them unless they are on Earth, and that he warned them that if they were ever in his hands, he was not going to treat them nicely.
Right. Can you remind me what we initially went to this planet for? Like, what was the plot of that episode?
Which episode?
Not the one where they buried the Stargate with the good people, not the one with the gold.
That's what I'm not 100% sure we saw that on screen. That's my only thing, is because I know that there was them fighting Harrower on and off in the past, and but I don't actually know if this episode, if the first episode, no. So we never actually saw that happen on screen. So gotcha. the callback to the people of Juna and the saving them from Harrower is just something that was mentioned in the show, not done on screen. The callback to the Asgard was the episode where they all were there in the base and they did the treaty, and there was the multiple Goa'uld there. And then obviously we will shortly talk about the major callback of this episode.
I just couldn't remember the Juno people, I guess.
No, the Juno people were just the people that were mentioned in the list of people that they had freed when they defeated Harrower. But you remember, Harrower was not really shown a lot. Like of all the Goa'ulds that we have fought or defeated, Harrower is the one that we really know the least about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel better not remembering those people.
Yes. And he says he is going to kill Teal'c slower than he killed Teal'c's father and make it painful. And Cronus gives Darian one of the Jaffa staff and tells him to prove his loyalty in front of all of his soldiers and kill Daniel. And there's a whole scene of him going back and forth on whether he's going to do it or not. And then he does. But Daniel's head just rolls off of his body and is a robot head.
And I still did not know what was going on because we were too far removed from that episode that I still had not remembered it.
I was taking notes, so I had paused it a couple times, and on Amazon it tells you the characters that are in that scene when you pause it. And I'm pausing it and I'm taking notes, and Dan just goes, "Wait, can you pause that again?" And I paused it and I looked at him and he said, "Why does that say Richard Dean Anderson is playing Android O'Neill?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And he was like, "What do you mean?" I go, "IMDb messes things up sometimes, I guess." Which, obviously, I didn't know what was happening. Right. I was like, "IMDb, you fucking spoilery piece of shit." But I wasn't going to say that to Dan. I was just like, "I don't know." And then we see the scene and Daniel's head pops off and rolls away. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Is that why it said Android O'Neill? What is going on here?" And I was like, "They're robots." And then we go back to SGC for the first time this episode.
Yeah.
What a transition that is. And there's an incoming wormhole and with an IDC frequency but no known code. So they're like, who the fuck could be calling us and know the base but not have their own ID? And the message received just says Comtria. Did you immediately remember that?
No, I didn't even immediately remember it when he got there. I was like, who's this? What are we doing?
So Sam goes, "It says Comtria," and Jack was like, "For fuck's sake." and Hammond is like, "Would anyone care to explain?" And Jack is like, "It's like shalom or ciao or aloha. It's what our friend Harlan, who cloned us, used to say." And Hammond's like, "I thought that gate was buried." And Jack was like, "So did I." For those of you who are just as confused as Courtney was, Harlan and the phrase Comtria and the clones were from season 1, episode 18, Tin Man. Which was one of the most poorly rated episodes of season 1. We didn't like it then. And all I could imagine was how pissed off Courtney was going to be when she figured out what was happening.
And if you're, for my own personal angry callback, if you live in, where is it? Australia, New Zealand, wherever. Yeah. This was 8 years ago for you now.
Oh my God, that's right. Because that whole thing about the seasons being
5 years later.
Weird times. Yeah.
Because I didn't remember this after, when did we start this? 2 years?
Year and a
half ago, probably.
Yeah, the end of season 1 would have been summer of 2022.
Right. So it's been roughly a year and a half, not quite a year and a half since I
Yeah.
watched this episode, and I had no idea what was going on. Can you imagine 8 years later watching this episode?
Oh my God, no, that would
Not a
be.
chance. Not a chance.
I'm just looking for shits at the air date, release date. Um, you want to hear something even worse? This is the release date of this episode. February or United Kingdom, February 7th, 2001. Because for some reason, England got some of the episodes before we did. It was weird because they don't have the same breaks in their TV schedule. The US, February 16th, 2001.
Sure.
France, June 29th, 2001. Germany, October 2000 or October 24th, 2001.
Sure.
Czechia, July 30th, 2002. So like a year later. Sweden, June 4th, 2007.
These poor Swedes. Like,
Oh, it gets worse. Estonia, February 21st, 2020.
I hope they're not watching it anymore. I hope they've given up because that's rude to make them wait that long.
That is
Estonia and Sweden should have given up.
so rude. Oh my God. I mean,
How do you watch TV?
to be fair, Estonia also didn't get the season 1 episode until November of 2019. So they actually had less time in between episodes to watch it. They just didn't get it Stargate at all until.
Well, that's fine. That's not a big deal. Then I can get because I understand licensing in countries and whatnot. So like,
yeah.
Fine. Estonia, keep watching. You're doing great. You're golden.
Yeah.
Sweden,
I'm so sorry.
boycott, riot, do whatever you need to. I'm in.
Holy shit.
I'll be with you.
Yeah, so Jack doesn't want to open the gate because, Harlan is the most annoying person in the entire galaxy. And Hammond decides he has to. So Harlan comes in and he's like, there's an emergency and you need your help.
I would be like, you are on drugs. Please leave.
Yeah. Back on Juno, Cronus is interrogating Teal'c and Sam, but they will not speak. They're doing great.
Right.
Back on Earth, Harlan is telling the team about what happened, and Hammond was under the impression that Robot SG-1 had buried their gate, and Harlan was like, yeah, but like they're just so much like you. They wanted to go out on missions. So they're just like off going out to planets and exploring the universe as if they are SG-1.
Yeah, that is insane. And this is about how long it took me to remember the entirety of what happened in 10 minutes. Because I was like, I need someone to just tell me what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so thankfully they did at least. So I was able to keep up. But yeah, you'd think though, after 3 years, this wouldn't be the first time we would hear about a second SG-1 team. Like, they've gone to a lot of planets since then.
Well, the clones said something about how they've never been on a planet that they'd already been on before, and so it confused them.
Yeah, but like, how? I get there's a lot of planets. I understand that concept, but like, still.
Right. And the robots always return to the planet, whatever their planet is called, after 24 hours to recharge their power packs, because their power packs only have about 48 hours of battery on it. But they haven't, and there's only 8 hours left on their batteries.
Good riddance.
Back on Juna, Darian tells Hera what happened, and that he was like, I've seen men decapitated before. That was not a man. What gave it away? These
really?
Sparks? What gave it away? The sparks and tubes coming out of his neck. But the thing that made him the most uncomfortable wasn't that it was a robot or a machine or whatever. It was the fact that Cronus seemed shocked. And if he was a true god, he would not be surprised.
So, like, this all kind of worked out for the best.
Yeah.
But,
So then they have some discussion. Back on Earth, they have some discussion, and Hammond is like, I'm not going to order the team to go after your robots. Like, that is your mistake. We'll have to figure it out.
And they're robots.
Yeah. But Harlan shows the team where the androids went. And that's when Sam and Jack realize that they should not be able to go there because the gate's supposed to be buried because they already saved Juna. So
So
back
this
on
leads
June.
me to another question.
Absolutely.
Why would you? Okay. So I get that you want to bury the Stargate so that people can't come once you've been saved. But who's to say that they're not just gonna show up on a ship like they did here? Like, so
I
now I
don't
feel like
think
you should never bury the Stargate, so in case you have to get a quick escape or something.
Yeah, but I don't think that they had really thought about that possibility, not because they didn't know that the Goa'uld had ships, but because they had just never come across a Goa'uld system lord going back to a planet that a different system lord had ruled. Like, that is not a common thing unless it's an active takeover, like during a battle. So like they didn't assume, because like if that planet belonged to Harrower, Kronos might not even know that planet exists. And if they don't have a gate and the Jaffa can't get there, then like it's not necessarily the greatest thing. It's not foolproof, but it's not, if like the Jaffa try to get there and it doesn't dial, then there's not an active gate, and then they must not be able to like see the people. It's like that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they hadn't really just like they hadn't really thought about that possibility because it's
Gotcha.
so small of a percentage of possibility.
That's fair. That's fair.
So and when they're talking about it, we see Juna again, and we see O'Neill trying to escape, and the Stargate dialing in, and that's when Sam gets really upset that the dialing actually works because it shouldn't. And Teal'c is like, well, it's got to be like a different Goa'uld. Obviously, Harrower is gone. Someone else must have come in now that the planet had no one like running it. So they send a map to Juna to see what's going on. And Robot Jack is right by the gate. And so they're communicating, and Robot Jack yells at Harlan for being on Earth. And Real Jack yells at Robot Jack for unburying the gate on Harlan's planet. And then Robot Jack also says that like he can't go back yet because he's got to save Sam and Teal'c. But as they're having this conversation, Darian arrives and he goes to find Jack, and he tells him that he wants to help him because he knows that Kronos is not really a god. So Hammond sends SG-1 to help Robot Jack and Darian. Kronos is working to extract more info from Robot Teal'c and Robot Sam. Still not really working very well. SG-1 gets there, and Jack starts physically fighting himself. And Darian tells the team more about Kronos, and they are determined to defeat him. Then we meet Jaden, who is the science officer for Kronos, and she is testing the androids to like find out ways to get information out of them or material or something. And SG-1 starts to formulate their plan on how they're going to rescue Teal'c and Carter and destroy Kronos. And then Robot Teal'c requests an audience with Kronos. Not a good thing, probably. Robot Jack gets himself, quote unquote, captured to get back on the ship. And Jaden tortures Sam for information. So everything is not looking very good. Darian and Robot Jack attack the Jaffa while SG-1 breaks into the ship, and Robot Jack gets shot.
Yeah.
Then we go to Kronos, and Robot Teal'c is there, and turns out he's not actually there to bargain. He just wants to get revenge for his father's death.
Good for him.
Yeah. We go back to Robot Sam, who has convinced Jaden to mess with the power pack in Robot Daniel's chest, just enough to trigger the self-destruct mode. Because even Robot Sam is smart as shit.
Well, because they're the same people, they're just robots.
Yeah. Robot Teal'c has almost killed Kronos when a Jaffa comes in and breaks up the party. And then Robot Sam does what she's supposed to do to use the rings to get the rest of the team up into the ship. Teal'c heads to the Peltac, which is like the main bridge, to find Robot Teal'c. And Robot Sam works to seal off that level of the ship. Cronus is fighting with real Teal'c and realizes it is the real Teal'c and not the android, and starts to rip out his symbiote, which looks very painful.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the rest of the team, and Robot Sam is fixing the doors because real Sam can't break through the force shield. So Robot Sam is like sticking her hands through this very, very, very painful force shield to like pull things apart. Then Robot Teal'c like stands up with his last burst of energy, kills Kronos, saves Teal'c, and says, "For our father," and then dies.
This episode had some drama. For as much as confusion as there was a good bit of drama still too.
And then Robot Sam is also dead now because of how much electricity she like stuck in her body by sticking her hands in the force shield. And then Robot Jack is telling Darian that he is also dying because he's like bleeding out like electrical fluid on the floor.
Yeah.
And real Jack comes in to tell and is like, "Darian, go tell all your people that Kronos is dead and there are no gods here anymore." And Robot Jack is like, "Ugh, how is everyone?" And he goes, "The real ones are okay." And he's like, "Are we really not real to you anymore?" And he goes, "No, I guess at this point I can't say that." And then he goes, "Well, then it's okay," and just dies in a selfless act of teaching Jack that robots have feelings too.
Even though they never should have existed. And now we have to deal with them again.
Yeah.
When they again didn't need to exist still. We could have just pretended like they were gone forever. But I guess we had to kill them all.
Yeah.
3 years later for some reason.
Yeah. I do have a couple very small pieces of trivia. I talked about Michael Shanks already. In the fight where Jack is fighting with himself, Robot Jack says, "I'm you, only better, faster, and stronger," which is a reference to the TV show The $6 Million Man, where there are robots working for the government. It's great. And then this one, the reason why I asked if you knew that the team coming through the gate was not the real team, there are 6 details that make it immediately obvious that they are not correct. And those 6 details, and they're small details, and if you're not, like, you'd have to pick up on them. And even if you noticed one of them, you might not like immediately think something's wrong. But if you notice all 6 of them, you're like, well, something is fucking up. One, the guns that they have are MP5s, even though in midway through season 3, the team has switched to P90s. So the guns are wrong. Daniel did not have his glasses on.
Sometimes he does it.
Yeah, he usually does when they first get through the gate, though.
He does usually, but
yeah. Carter seems surprised when Darian calls her Major, because in season 1 she was not yet promoted. So Sam has no knowledge of this promotion. Carter and Daniel both have hair that is significantly longer than their characters currently do in this season. They did not send a melt through before they went through, which is not normal protocol. And Teal'c does not have a staff, only a gun.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Although I feel like the mouth one I wouldn't have noticed anyways, because we just start.
Yeah. Sometimes when we start midway through something, we don't notice the mouth or we don't see it at first. So that one is tricky, and then the Daniel not having his glasses. You're right.
Yeah.
That is weird. Also, if you don't know what an MP5 and a P90 looks like, that detail you're never
That
going to
means
figure out.
nothing to me.
But
Yeah.
the
The hair length,
the
her
hair
being
length,
major.
major, and the staff are three that it's like if you pick up on them, you're like, no, 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 there's something actually
Yeah.
not correct here.
I will say, like, I noticed Sam was surprised, but I thought it was because I was still in this time loop issue where I was like, they know her, but she doesn't know them because she's gone back in time or something and doesn't have her memories from before. I don't know. So I was like, she just doesn't know that she's met them. So that the fact that they know her is surprising.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
Well, um, do you, before we get into people that we want to punch, do you have any final words for this episode?
Um, I just had a lot of confusion the whole time trying to figure out where everything was placed. I couldn't figure out if Harlan was played by the same character, and so I went through a whole like thing where I was like, was he the guy who played the gamekeeper? And then I was like, oh no, was he the guy? I was like, he was the guy who had the once I figured out he was the guy who had the robots. I was like, he had the robots. I was like, but was that the same guy that was played by Dom DeLuise? Or was that a whole different story? Because I had a lot
No,
of that
Ergo was
in the
a
middle of the
different
episode.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I figured it all out by the end, but that probably didn't help me stay on track very well throughout the episode.
Fair
So
enough.
it was just from beginning to end, I was just questioning a lot of things.
Valid.
But yes,
Um,
that's all.
who do you want to punch?
Everyone. Oh my God, everyone. Guess if I have to be more specific, I'd go with like Kronos.
Yeah, that's fair.
He really set all of this aflame. I mean, Robot SG-1 are morons that should have stayed home. But like
Yeah,
Kronos really set this whole thing aflame. So
which is a very, very valid answer. And I do like that answer, but I'm gonna go with Harlan because the fuck is he doing?
yeah. I will say, had they not gotten to this planet, we would have never known Kronos came in and took it over.
True. True.
But I also would like to punch Harlan, so that's a fair answer too.
I never thought I'd have to hear
It's
the
like,
words Comtria ever again.
yeah, like what else have they messed up that we don't know about?
Right.
So
So bad. Um, who was your MVP?
no one. Truly no one. Maybe I don't know. Regular Tilk. Regular Tilk is my MVP
Right.
because he fought back against this guy who killed his dad. I don't know.
Um, I'm gonna go with Darian
Mm,
because he he was never stupid. He just
yeah.
was reacting to protecting his people and needing more proof than what SG-1 said because what they said didn't turn out to be right in the first place. But then the first time he sees something that is questionable, he does question it and he immediately like makes the right decision. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate the speed with which he corrects his mistakes and the selflessness with which he like serves the Kronos in the first place.
Which is fair. It's
Yeah.
fair.
Um, yeah. So there's only one episode left in this season. Do you have any thoughts on what might happen in this episode?
I have no idea. Everyone from season 1, episode 3 is going to resurrect and come back and close out the season. Who knows? Who knows anymore? I have no idea.
Hold on, I need to look up what season 1, episode 3 was. Because you might be entirely correct.
I bet I
Uh,
am. I bet I am. I also don't know what it is, but
let's see, season 1, episode 3. No. No, season 1, episode 3 was Emancipation, the one where Sam was like in being kidnapped by those Mongolian type people and wearing the blue fancy dress. So no, we will not be calling back to that. But that does not mean that there isn't someone who was in season 1 in the next episode.
can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah,
Not
so
at all the bane of my existence or anything.
so we just have the one left. And today is December 10th, which is not in real life, so it feels very far
No, it's
away.
not.
No, when this episode comes out, it'll be December 10th. It is not December 10th right now. We're at the point now where no, the 10th is a Sunday. I know
You're
because
right.
I have it because I know because
It was on
my
the 7th. I thought it came out on the 8th. It was on the 7th.
no, my bridal appointments are the 9th and the 10th, so it definitely has to be.
Right.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts about season 4, please feel free to the season 4 as a whole, feel free to reach out because at this point we will have finished season 4. When you are seeing this episode, we will finish season 4 and wrapped the whole thing up with a fancy bow. So there will not be any spoilers. It'll be great. And you can do that by sending us an email at deathandaliens@gmail.com or following us on any of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CECloud13.
See you for Thriller Thursday, where we finish season 2 of The Exorcist.
Yay!